walking it all through, and we are now indeed live.
This is old hat.
Yes.
This is where we try to look professional and seamless. We know what we're doing.
Totally.
Yeah, well, we'll let you know in about 20 minutes when it all descends into chaos. Hello there, everybody. I know what we do is a 5-minute countdown to give you a chance to kind of sort out any YouTube bugs or kind of get those annoying adverts out of the way at the beginning. But it also allows us to give you the chance to kind of get on the Q&A, jump in, and of course let anybody know any questions. Let us know where you're watching from, and of course anything that you want to jump in about today's show. It's going to be about primarily two topics. We are going to be talking about football 2017, which is being held here in Leeds. This is where I am right now. The show is literally just tearing down as we speak outside. And we're also going to be talking about New York Comic-Con taking place in 2 weeks. It's going to be taking over not just the Javits Center, but some major venues around New York. And we're very lucky to be joined by ReedPOP's Mike Armstrong. We've also got a couple of guest people who are going to be jumping in as well. I believe Michael Leventhal is going to be joining us at some point, perhaps. So, oh, no, Alyssa's not too sure.
I'm not sure.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. We may be also joined by Bleeding Cool's Rich Johnson as well. And we may also be joined by the missus. She can disappear for a bit. But there we go. We've got. It's going to be a packed show. But if there's any questions that you do want to put to our guests, do let us know, and we'll crack on and get in with that in the next minute or so. Once again, the YouTube is up and running, so please, any questions you have, certainly regarding the upcoming features and attractions of New York Comic-Con, and also the lottery as well, which was held this week for various things, including the Mark Hamill signature series, and also the other bits and pieces that are happening around New York this weekend. So I'm just keeping an eye on, because that looks like a DJ setup.
That does, yes.
Do you want to just go and check what's going on? With the last...
Hey, it's live TV, Mike.
Yes. Quiet corner, but we'll see what happens. But anything you want to jump in on that, you can also use the hashtag as well. We've changed it for today, which is CupOT NYCC. So please, any questions that you want to use that on the hashtag CupOT NYCC. This is cider. This is not a cup of tea today.
This hang-up button is pretty attractive right now.
Uh-oh. See?
So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, we've got alternative places we can go, and, of course, I'm certain Alyssa can hold the fort as well. Whereabouts are we in terms of time?
Do the show
we must be seconds away.
You're on. Go for it.
Yeah, I think we can, I suppose. I think Caroline's... Yeah, it's the top of the shop. It's the top of the hour. So, we can indeed say, welcome along to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Len Sultana, and this is where each and every week we talk comic conventions, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that goes on around it. It's a packed show today, so I'm going to dive straight in and welcome my partner in crime. We've got Alyssa Franks from the Friends of Comic-Con Forum joining us. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
I am well, getting ready for New York Con. Had a little bit of problem with the entering of the lottery due to some confusion on my part. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we're all in prep for New York Comic-Con here, and I will turn this over to our wonderful guest today.
I'm also in prep for New York Comic-Con. The last 2 weeks always seem to sneak up on you. So we're putting the final touches on things, doing our final security walkthroughs with Javits Center this week, making sure all the stuff goes where it needs to go. So we're ready to hit it.
How many cons has New York Comic-Cons has this been for you that you've been either working on or running?
For me, this is number 8, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I started in 2010, and when I joined ReedPOP, I was the sales executive on the Star Wars Celebration show, and so I would help out in New York. I didn't the first year I didn't have too much to do with it, but then gradually picked up more responsibility along the way. And 8 years later, here we are. I'm sitting in my basement. I haven't showered today. I'm having dreams about queue lines and lottery entries, and that's
It's
the glory of leadership, I suppose.
You wake up in the middle of the night and think to yourself, yes, this was worth it.
I don't question the worth. I just question whether I got everything I needed to get done that day. So no, it's fun. And like I was telling you guys off the air, I love being there, and I love the Monday and the Tuesday before the show, because that's when people start to roll in, and you get to say hi to old friends. But Thursday through Sunday is intense, and I'm sure it's intense for fans too. I haven't been on the fan side in a long time, but it's intense, and the team works really, really hard to make sure that everyone has a good time.
Well, I think barreling right into the first series of questions to get that out of the way, if you don't mind, which is about the lotteries, because that really has been the biggest change that I've seen this year. In terms of changes that you've been doing. Just to get this out of the way, press and pros can enter the lotteries, right?
Yep, if they have a fan verified email, they can enter the lotteries.
Okay. There's been a lot of confusion from people about that, and I just wanted to get that cleared up and out of the way. The lottery process itself, I found what I said earlier, I found it a little confusing because you had to select all 4 days and then select how many people per event, per panel you wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds as though that a lot of other people had that problem. I assume that you're thinking about changing that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we do and all the new processes that we roll out are, if we think back to last year when we launched fan verification, this past year we made a lot of modifications to it that made things easier, that made things clearer for people, and provided a little bit more benefit. So yeah, next year we're going to tweak lotteries. Let me step back to why we want to do lotteries. Like, if I've got 2,500 seats in the main stage and I can manage expectations for 1,000 people that they're going to get into that panel, they don't have to worry about it. It's one thing that they can cross off their list getting in line for. Then I think it's a win. Like, you're still going to have that standby backup line. So if you are more of the first come first serve type people, you can get in that line and you can get in. But if I can take 1,000 people and put their minds at ease that they're going to get into the give me a good one, the Michael Rooker panel, then that's fantastic. So that's the reason why we did it. Was it a little, I'm not going to even say it was clunky, but can it be refined for the future? Yeah, of course. And we will. We're going to work hard on it over this next year. Okay.
I assumed we'd get, that we would get into the reasons why you had done that before. Any thoughts on creating separate categories for the different types of lotteries? Like for a separate category for panels and a separate category for exclusives? The reason why I'm asking is because if you get, say you win for Funko or Lego on Thursday,
mm-hmm.
The Friday, Saturday, and Sunday lotteries, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday lotteries entries are negated. So I'm wondering if you'd like to break out the exclusives from the panel lotteries.
Yeah, and it's something we did before we even had the panel lotteries. The exclusive lotteries, we had a different methodology last year. It was through show clicks, not through the new process that we're using now. So yeah, I could see us doing that. It's a good suggestion. And I'm sure our team has thought about it, and for whatever reason, it wasn't able to happen for this year, but I can see that happening going forward.
From s05e09, were the lotteries thought of because of the renovations for the convention? Did that play into it at all, or was it just the wanting to give people in line, people who wanted to get into the panel, that peace of mind?
No, it wasn't about renovation at all. We had actually talked about doing it at MSG and Hammerstein as well, but because those rooms don't clear, it's a little more difficult to do that. So, you could camp out in MSG all day. So we decided to do main stage, and it had nothing to do with renovations. It was just something that, our team wanted to do, an effort to put some fans' minds at ease before they get to the show.
You're hitting all my future questions, Mike. Well, Debster asks, are you considering clearing Hammerstein and the MSG?
The issue with clearing those rooms, just the number of seats and the amount of time it would take to clear and then refill. Plus, there's not a lot of access on the street for people to line up, particularly at Hammerstein. So it's difficult. I think I can see a scenario where we have a lottery and that lottery is good for certain sections and then those sections are cleared. But I don't think we're going to ever be able to exit entry between every panel, because if you look at timing, we would probably lose a day. And I want to give as much content as possible, but if we work through that timing, we'd lose an hour and a half a day, which means we'd lose an entire panel, which I don't think anybody wants.
Very interesting idea to do a partial selection, like the first 20 rows or something of that nature. That's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of that one before. That's
I've seen that done at shows before, and it works well. We thought about it for this year, and logistically, we didn't think we were going to make it. We weren't going to get it to work just because of some of the panels that are going on at MSG. We don't think we're going to get a lot of attrition, so I don't want 500 people coming in and nobody leaving, because then where those 500 people go? Because if you were going to clear that section, what we were going to tell fans is that you can leave the building, or you can move to an open seat somewhere else. And I just don't think that enough people would leave.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So of those half of the people that get into a panel, say you've won the lottery, into one of the main stage that's half of the ticket. So that's probably about 1,500. Is that a round
number? For the main stage, it's about 1,200. Yeah. About
1,200. So say a third of those people or a quarter of those people don't show up. What's the plans?
We'll fill every possible seat that we've got. So if the lottery winners are told what time to be there to make sure that they can get in, if they're not there at a certain point, then that's an open seat, and we'll have that first come first serve line to get into that panel as soon as we see that there's open seats. So we want, and our fans want, and our panelists want every seat full, and we'll do that whatever way we have to.
So you're going to have a standby line at the time of the panel for the seats?
We're going to have, we'll have an overflow line before every panel, which is what we've had in the past. We've had people hanging around even with the badge tapping last year. So if you tapped your badge and you won but didn't show up, there was somebody there who was going to take your seat if you didn't make it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Speaking of actually getting people in.
How are you cracking down on scalpers? Speaking of another problem, problem issue.
It's getting harder and harder every year. People are getting more savvy. We've avoided the fan verification has essentially negated the mass wholesalers. So nobody can come in now and buy 200 tickets for using whatever bots that they have for the purpose of resale. There's never going to be anything that I can do about somebody buying 4 and selling 1 of those. There's nothing I can do about that. What we are doing is this year we found a staggering amount of professional and press badges being sold. Those are relatively easy to track down, and once I track them down, they are never invited back to New York Comic-Con as a pro or a press. So, I think over the past 3 weeks, we've knocked off about 50 of those, which sucks to have to do, because I know how hard people, I know how much people want pro badges, and pro badges are in such high demand these days that not everybody can get one. So to see those on the resale market is really frustrating for me and everybody else on the team.
That indeed, that was Buchenred's comment, was that he was seeing a number of press and pro badges out there. Leonard, did you want to add anything?
There's a couple of questions, certainly that's coming on the Q&A. I just wanted to check. s05e09 has asked the process of actually entering. Is it going to be the same through the metal detectors? Sorry, let me just confirm the question. Will security be the same as last year, going through metal detectors?
There are metal detectors this year. Security will be as close to the same as possible. We've added another entrance for fans. We'll start to roll the information out this week so that people know before they get there where we're going to direct them. It's always kind of we need to be able to adjust on the fly. If a certain street is getting a little bit overloaded, then we're going to go against what we put out there just so that we can kind of ease the pressure in certain areas. So we'll go out with our stated kind of entry plan, but it's open for change at any given moment, to be honest with you.
How's the reaction to the lotteries been so far from the feedback that you've been getting? I mean, it really is something that you are. I mean, how long has it been for you as a process to put this into place? I mean, was it pretty much from the moment from the close of doors last year, or have you been wanting to do this for a while?
We talked about it. I mean, I'd say we've talked about this for the past 18 months. So it's been quite a process putting it together. We've got a good technology partner that's integrated with our registration vendor and with security. So yeah, it's been a while. We'll always strive to do better, and I think the technology will get better going forward, and we'll do a better job of explaining things to people. But overall, it's been largely positive. We'll see when the stuff goes out on the 29th. Because it'll be largely positive for the people who win, and it'll be a train wreck for the people who don't. So, that's always the joke we make internally when people love our registration system when they can get the badge that they want, and they hate it when they don't. So, we'll see on the 29th what the reaction is.
Yeah.
What's been the reaction to the Mark Hamill lottery?
I mean, good, I guess. I haven't been.
That was a deep sigh you did there.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Look, I appreciate any talent who comes in and wants to do something unique for fans. I think he'd been thinking about this for a while, and it kind of came about this past week. So, to be honest with you, I haven't seen a ton of feedback on it just because we've been focused on other things. But hey, you've got a chance to win a meet and greet with Mark Hamill. I think that's pretty great for fans.
He's been the kind of guy that has been wanting to be as fair as he can to his fans as possible. And you don't get more fair than a lottery as part of a lottery system that's already been implemented by yourself. So, no, I think, yeah, a lot of people are going to kind of see that as a good chance. So,
yeah,
cool.
I wish we could have announced it 2 months ago and
yeah,
done a little bit more.
I think some people would have liked it to have not just been on the Sunday either.
Right.
that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, we have to work around talent schedules, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see people's reactions when they're coming out of that room on Sunday. Although I think it might be during our Talkback panel, so I don't know if I'll even see that. So there goes another thing I never get to see at the shows.
One other question was, so this is going to, by limiting the room down to 1,200 for the first thing in the morning for these, say you didn't win, you really want to get in to see this panel, really want to see Mike Rooker, for example, to use your example from earlier, to get one of those precious 1,200 wristbands first thing in the morning is going to bring this to a whole nother level of frenzy. Have you thought at all about people showing up even earlier? Are you worried about that?
Not really. I mean, theoretically, we've gotten 1,200 super Michael Rooker fans out of the way so that they don't have to be a part of that rush. So I think there's a finite audience for every panel, and hopefully that we've made a certain number of them super happy before they even get there, so they don't need to be a part of that early morning rush. So we're prepared for it. We Brian Stevenson, who you guys both know, is he's the general down in that queue hall, so he knows exactly what to do, and I have a lot of faith that the team down there will pull it off.
Brian is great. There's no question. I mean, he runs the queue hall amazingly well. Shifting gears a little bit here, unless you want to have any more questions on this, Leonard, on the lotteries, Leonard.
Not on the lotteries, no. I mean, I think, like I say, everyone's reaction has been positive, certainly from what I've been reading. If anything, purely because it does democratize the process of actually getting badges. I think people have been a little bit confused, certainly when we did our talk through of the lotteries last week, when we explained about the whole business of selecting panels by day. Some people didn't actually know that was actually the process, that you actually had to then select each day to then select the chosen panels. So I think it's just it's a learning curve for everybody, I think.
Sure. And we could lay it out better. To be honest with you, the first time I went through it just to test it, I did the same thing that a lot of people did and just didn't know to click on the other days. So yeah. You know, it'll get better.
And to bring up a point that Mike Leventhal is just making is there's 1,200 people who won the lottery. Those 1,200 people might not necessarily be super fans. Just
if they're, yeah, they might not be super fans, but if they use one of their kind of precious entries, then hopefully they're doing it for a reason.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Leonard, anything else?
Certainly when it comes to the lottery, I think we've covered a lot of the ins and outs of it. I'm personally excited about how it's been implemented, and I'm looking forward to it. Sorry if this is a question that's come in from the Q&A. This is from Super Catchick. Sorry if this has been addressed, but do people who win the lottery get specific reserved seats, or is it still going to be first come, first served on where they sit?
It's still first come, first served. We don't reserve seats anywhere. Yeah.
So they're mixed in with the people who stood in line and gotten the precious wristband first thing in the morning.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think when it comes to lottery, I think if there's listen, the Q&A is up and running. We are still going to be taking questions. If there's anything, yep, there we go. If there's there it is. If there's anything on the Q&A that you want us to continue, we can come back to the lottery by all means. So please, any questions? Or just to chat to Caroline, who is currently in the chat room. So there we go. Thank you for that.
I do have a question about the Artist Alley, because given the construction that's going on in the old space, which was absolutely gorgeous and airy and bright and, you know, wonderful, that we're being moved into, the Artist Alley is now being moved into a room that's, as you're looking at the convention center on the far left-hand side down below. It's kind of dark. How does the square footage compare, number one? Like, is there more room or less room? And are you going to up the AC in that room? I think that's the critical one.
Yeah. So
if you're talking, just to add on top of that, then if you're talking about the lighting, are you implementing any additional lighting just to help for the artists as well?
No current plans for additional lighting. I saw the room a couple weeks ago at half lighting and it was dark. I hope that with the full lighting, it gets a little bit better in there. It sucks. I mean, the room doesn't suck. The situation sucks. You know, that Artist Alley building was beloved, and because it had the cleanest bathrooms, and because the lighting and I don't know, it's just such a good vibe over there. So it sucks to lose that. Actually, we had a conference call with Javits the other day, and they said that they've almost finished demolition over there. So I asked them to take some rubble and put it in a little heart locket so I can wear it around forever. Or just like a cinder block or something. So yeah, Alyssa, we are moving into Hall 1E, which is in the lower level, all the way far left of the building, kind of below where DC's activation usually is. And it's smaller. It's a smaller room by about 15 to 20,000 square feet, which means we've got about 50 to 75 fewer tables than we did last year. Now, last year we haven't independently verified this, but I believe we are the largest artist alley in North America. And I don't even really think it's that close. So by taking the 500 tables that we had in the past and turning it into low 400s, it's still a massive artist alley with some of the best talent that we've ever seen. So I think the vibe down there will still be really good. It might not be as comfortable, which I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, but it's not the situation we wanted. The other alternative would have been, hey, do we move Artist Alley into a different building, not attached to Javits Center? And after talking with artists and fans and publishers, that's just not viable. So it's going where it can go, and we're gonna do the best to make it work.
Yeah, moving it into a different place is not good. It separates the comics from the pop culture, and it's just not a good vibe. Not a good vibe at all. I would say that maybe ECC might have a little bit larger. Emerald City Comic-Con might have, a good size artist alley.
Oh,
So-
it's
Come
great.
on. It's
Hey,
not a pissing
guys.
contest, people. Come on.
It's not a pissing. I run both of those shows. It's not a pissing contest.
I was about to say you're the boss of the both of them. When it comes
No,
to
I was bringing that up. You know, that was kind of the point that, you know, you do seriously bring it when it comes to the artist alleys, and we appreciate it. And I know that it's not something that you wanted to do, move from the gorgeous space that we had. That
when it comes to the moving of that space, then, and you say that you've lost the tables, dare I ask what the process was when it comes to choosing who was actually going to be selected? I know you may not be able to speak to the selection process, as it were, for Artist Alley, because obviously you've got a team leader who's going to be running that, but it must have been difficult to cull the names.
Well, it's the same process that we've always had. We take all the submissions and we look through them as a team, and we basically score people based on how well we think they perform or how well we think fans would react to them. So it just means that we had to hit N instead of Y a bunch more times, which is unfortunate. But we generally get around 16 to 1,800 submissions for Artist Alley, and we go through every single one of them, and we look at every single person's website, and we verify every single person's last date of publication for work. So you know, I think it cut down the number of paid tables that we have for sure. We still have the same budget for bringing in comic talent. We still have the same number of comp tables. So while the quantity might be a little bit lighter, the quality is there, if not even better. So you know,
we've got a question from Andrew Dickinson, actually. What's the turnover for Artist Alley at New York?
That's a really good question, and I can't give you a great answer. We with New York, we've got, oh boy, now I'm gonna have to do some math in my head.
On a Sunday after Sunday, I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, murder. I think I'd say we turn it over by half each year, and that's, you know, we invite different people every year. We don't invite the same people year over year. You know, we try to get a lot of fresh blood in there each year. So I would say half. That might be a little generous, but yeah.
Cool. I mean, we've actually got Sarita P on the Q&A, and I think I know the answer to this one already. Can a fan suggest an artist for Artist Alley? At the end of the day, the artist has got to want to come to the show themselves. So.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. Please, in all of our post-show surveys, we ask, who do you want to see? In all of our social channels, we're pretty open to hearing people's suggestions. So I think people, I think there's a misconception among a lot of fans that, you know, everybody that we ask says yes. I mean, a significant amount of people don't do shows anymore, or are busy that weekend, or are getting married. Like, and it's the same with entertainment guests too. People think that we don't ask everybody that we can ask. It's just kind of circumstance sometimes.
I am liking that you're on the. I don't know what you're drinking, but I'm on the cider. So.
Oh, I'm on a little fresh brewed homemade iced tea. So yeah.
There you go. Okay. There was another question. Oh, we're on the alcoholic beverages here. We're post-con. We're post-con. If I do a lottery question, Alyssa, or do you have any more Artist Alley? Okay, yeah, this is actually from Sarita P. When you win a lottery slot, how do you go by redeeming it? Actually, this is a pretty good sort of like nuts and bolts question. Is it a printout that you show, or do you tap your badge when you get there?
Tap your badge.
Tap your badge. There you go.
But don't you?
That was quickly done.
But don't you have to respond within 24 hours or 48 hours of winning the lottery?
You still have to do that too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair enough. Thank you.
The Hudson Mercantile.
Yeah.
Is this a new venue, or did you use this for BookCon before?
We used it for BookCon at NYCC last year. We tinkered with the branding a little bit. I think because BookCon is also a standalone event that we run in conjunction with Book Expo, and I think there was some confusion with fans that they were going to go to this, you know, relatively small venue at New York Comic-Con and get the full BookCon experience, and that wasn't the case. We're kind of branding it now as, you know, it's certainly our publishing and books headquarters, but it's not a full-on BookCon. BookCon is talent, guests, signings, exhibitors, all sorts of stuff, and this is different. This is upstairs. You're going to have some separately ticketed events with you know, kind of intimate conversations with authors that includes a book. And then downstairs, you've got an activation from our new book selling partner, The Strand, and a few other sponsored activations down there. So I mean, I love the building. I love the venue. And I just hope that more people take advantage of it this year.
How have the activations gone down in terms of reaction that you've been reading? Because, I mean, certainly the amount of offsite has just been incredible. It's just been an amazing lineup.
Yeah, there's a lot offsite, and we're look. We knew the Javits construction was coming about 2 years ago, so we said to ourselves, we need to start planting the seeds outside the building for a true citywide expansion, because Javits will no longer be able to hold the experience that our fans have come to expect. So we did Hammerstein 3 years ago. We did MSG last year, and I would expect that we've got a lot more going on. Oh, my wife is here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hello.
Sorry. She's leaving, and she had to give me the baby monitor, so when the baby wakes up, that I can go take care of her.
It's all about priorities, man.
Totally.
I dig that.
Yeah. So we knew that stuff was coming, so we needed to start planting the seeds for outside expansion. And there's a lot of great stuff. We're still doing MSG for 2 days. We're doing Hammerstein for 4, Hudson Mercantile. We've got a relationship developing with the park across the street. So where the subway station is, there's 2 blocks of Parks Department owned park. And we're putting activations there this year. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of other stuff popping up in and around the area next year.
So speaking of outside activations, I've noticed that there's a couple of particularly interesting parties occurring. The eCoin Mr. Robot party on Thursday night. How, and then there's an American Gods party also. How did they get in contact with you? Because these are really San Diego style evening party events that are happening. How did that come about?
Yeah, some of them we work in partnership with. Some of them, just decide to do things on their own at venues that we don't necessarily have a relationship with, so we can't really provide too much value there. So it's a mixture of both. It's great to see that stuff coming to New York, and it really, I think, heightens the experience for everybody. And I really want to get to the point where you can come experience New York Comic-Con without a badge. You can pop around Times Square, where there's a bunch of different pop culture activations, or Herald Square, or the park across the street. Like, there's just so much to see and do. And, the good meat of it is going to be inside and at our own venues, but there's going to be stuff everywhere coming soon.
Right. So, no, that makes sense, but I am totally looking forward to the eCoin. I did get I was on top of it enough on the forum, so I'm definitely going to that one.
Good.
Was it free food too? I was like, hey, they were really their activation in San Diego was really nice last year, and I found Lounge Burger with a killer chocolate malted milkshake last year. Well, you can see my priorities.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just about to say.
Absolutely.
To plug other parties, if I could, we've got obviously the partnership with the Harvey Awards is starting this year. So we're not going to have a full-blown Harvey Awards presentation in 2017, but we will in 2018 once we get the voting and that stuff figured out. But we will have a party at the Hudson Mercantile Annex this year, which I think will be announced. I can't guarantee that there's any spot for the public. I think it's going to be an industry thing for this year, but that's kind of stuff that we like working on because it really adds back into the industry.
But do it next year. Invite the public next, in a.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be.
My goal for this is that this is our big Saturday night event at the Hammerstein Ballroom, where you've got all of that comic talent in the area, and you've got 2,400 seats to fill. That's what I want out of this.
Good.
Fingers crossed on that.
I've got a question from New York Rider. Unless there's anything on the Q&A, Leonard.
No, jump in. I've got a couple, but go for your question.
Okay, New York Rider, who's a moderator for the forum, is wondering: is there going to be any more big studio movie panel guest announcements? The only big movies so far has been Pacific Rim and Legendary. And if so, are there going to be lotteries?
So the only way that there would be lotteries is if the movie panels were in the main stage, and if there are any movie panels coming, they won't be in the main stage because I think that's booked. There might be one or two. I'm not optimistic that we're going to have a bunch more of announcements. I think in our last team meeting, James and Katie, who handle programming, said that there's probably a dozen more panels to be announced. But I don't think there are any. I don't think it's big movie stuff at this point.
I think it says a lot about the landscape of pop culture at the moment, that movies at Comic-Cons are recognizing that it's the golden age of television, that it's mostly the television panels that seem to have taken over. And I have no problem with that. At the end of the day, there's some cracking television out there. Is there any panels or any activations that is jumping out at you as being a headliner or something that you would like to check out? Sorry, this is where I really put you on the spot. I do.
Yeah, totally. You know, I don't see much because we're always seeming to be putting out fires. The thing that I was most excited for last year was to see MSG full. So, I mean, our team worked so hard on that whole thing, and I was there right when the Walking Dead panel started. So I saw the cast come out. I was sitting towards the front, and I saw the cast come out. And I turned around. I didn't even care about the cast. I just wanted to see the fan reaction, and I wanted to see that room full. And that's the kind of stuff I care about. I don't, you know, any of the content, you know, there's stuff I like, and there's stuff I'll try to pop into if I can. But I get more excited about excited fans than I do about seeing particular panels. But you know, if I'm being truthful, I'll probably stop in at the Doomsday Clock panel, see that, and what else was I looking forward to? There's one that's not announced yet that I'll probably stop into, but it's hard. It's hard, man.
Nearly.
You almost got it. Yeah.
Got it. I will admit, both me and my editor for the blog are both like kind of, I want Pacific Rim. No, I want Pacific Rim. I want to do Pacific. So we're both really kind of looking forward to that one.
Whereas if I was in the room, it's not a case of wanting Pacific Rim. I would just want Del Toro to pop by and be Del Toro.
Yes.
But that's just me.
Right.
Last year, I was backstage before the Walking Dead panel, and that was as I think Troll Hunters. Is that Del Toro? So he bumped into me, like literally we bumped bodies going down this very narrow stairwell. So that was my brush with fame for last year.
Big time. Once the Javits Center expansion and other construction projects are completed in 2021, do you foresee moving more panels back into the Javits Center or closer to the Javits, or do you still foresee using the Hammerstein and MSG?
If we've got those flags planted, I don't think we're going to take them down. So I think it just gives us an opportunity to expand even more. So the thing that's really exciting is that the Hudson Yards development, which when I started doing this 8 years ago was a hole in the ground, and now there's massive skyscrapers there across the street. There's a couple performing arts spaces that are being built there as part of that development. So we might get another room or two that's close to Javits, which I'm thrilled for. It's the coolest looking building. I'll send it to you guys offline. But there's stuff popping up around in Hell's Kitchen and Hudson Yards, which means that there's just more venues for New York Comic-Con. I don't think I'm ever going to give back MSG. That's the coolest thing in the world. And Hammerstein is gorgeous. So I don't think we're going to ever give that stuff back. It just gives us more opportunity to build more new cool things.
Well, you've got Super Cat Chick who's saying that I love the panels at Hammerstein so much. It's always a highlight of my New York Comic-Con.
Good. Mine too.
So yeah, I think that's certainly. I mean, from what I've been reading, it's certainly something that people are wanting to see more of. It's certainly something that we've seen here at Thought Bubble. So that's not segueing just yet, but just to say we've seen a change of venue here at Leeds, where people the organizers have kind of taken over as much space as they possibly can. But at the end of the day, they have to do that with the organization of Leeds. In terms of New York, how much cooperation have you got in terms of expanding into the city? And like you say, using the performance art spaces in other venues?
In terms of the city itself, not a ton.
No.
You know, far less.
It's more a case of negotiating with the individual venues and really kind of, really doing the deals.
Yeah. If you look at our other shows, particularly Chicago and Seattle, those cities are so cool to work with, and they will provide you connections, advice, in some cases funding to do new cool things around that city. New York doesn't really need that. Seattle doesn't really need that anymore either.
Oh no!
Oh, have we lost him?
Did I lose you guys? Oh, there we go. Sorry. It's us. Gotcha. It's up to us as a.
Uh-oh.
No, we lost. Oh no.
Yeah, it's got to be his ISP.
This is where the baby monitor is kicking in.
Right.
and the baby monitor is now screaming, at which point we are now losing Mike.
Uh-oh.
Because the baby's going, no, it's my turn.
Well, I was going to be the next series of questions I was going to ask Mike is about the restructuring of ReedPOP, because I know that they moved from being everyone worked on all of the shows to
specific roles.
Yeah, exactly. So like Mike was saying that he worked on New York Comic-Con for the past series of years, and that's another show that he runs, and he runs ECC. So I was wondering what other shows he ran, what was coming up. But oh, and he dropped out.
Mike has left the call. There he goes, dropped out completely. Who knows? He may be back. Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it is down to his own home Wi-Fi. He's got his own things on the line, and who knows? It may have just been something. He'll try his best to come back. I'm certain we'll try and get Mike back at some point. Or at this point, he may have just been going, no, the questions were boring. Moving on. Who knows? Who knows? But there we go. Hopefully he may come back and join us for another bit of a chat. But still lots of stuff. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks away. It was a good question that you asked about what else was being arranged. And it says, like he says, there's more stuff to be announced. There's still stuff to come, which is very exciting, I think. I mean, even at 2 weeks and, less than 2 weeks to go, still stuff to kind of announce, which I think is very, very cool. So there we go. What else has been discussed when it comes to New York Comic Con? Certainly on the forum, what's been kind of the main topics of conversation?
A lot on exclusives, still talking the lotteries. The other thing that I noticed when I was doing my badge activation was that they were asking for my phone number, and they stressed. Well, given
why?
History, and that was a good question. But what they went ahead and said was by signing up for a standby line for NYCC panels and exclusives and experiences, when it's your turn to join the line, we'll text you, or we'll contact you. Your number will not be shared. Oh, hi, Mike.
Sorry.
Hi, Mike.
I moved. My computer crapped out. I moved over to my phone. I'm sorry.
No worries. I was just going over the fact that we've been asked to provide our phone numbers when we activate our badges this year, for in case we want to get notified about a standby position for panels, exclusives, and experiences. This is new.
Yeah, the connectivity at Javits isn't always the best, so that was something that we wanted to do, so we make sure that we could get info out. It would make a lot of sense if it was integrated a little bit better into the mobile app, because then we could just push out push notifications, but the technology just wasn't there for us. So yeah, phone numbers for text messages. So hopefully we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's easier to get it'll be easier to get a text message than it'll be easier to log onto the Wi-Fi in all likelihood.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
thank you so much for letting us know that you weren't going to be using it, you weren't going to share it or use it with anybody, for anything else. I appreciate that. Just putting that right out there.
Yeah.
Well, we think it's of course not, but other people may not. So I'm glad, certainly glad that you're doing that. I was interested in some other questions. ReedPOP has gone through a restructuring recently in this past year or so, so that people are no longer focused on all of your events across that ReedPOP does, but you personally, you said you ran New York Comic-Con and you run ECC. How has that restructuring been going? Are you liking it?
Yeah, I am. So
But
the structure is that I run the North American Comic Con business, so I oversee ultimately New York Comic Con, C2E2, and Emerald City Comic Con, and then a launch that we might be announcing sooner than later, but we could talk about that some other time. So what essentially we've done is, you're right. In the past, my programming team, so James and Katie, they would finish New York Comic Con, they would sleep for 3 days, and then they'd immediately jump into working on C2E2, which means that C2E2 wasn't getting the attention that it deserved. Ultimately, New York Comic Con wasn't getting the attention that it deserved. So we made the decision to break out our coordinators and managers to work on individual shows. So now Christina Rogers, who you might have met before, she is the event manager for New York Comic Con. So she handles the day-to-day for New York Comic Con all year, and that's her sole role. And then she's got a team of 7 people underneath her who do content for New York Comic Con all year round. And the issue we were having was, I think the shows all started to feel the same, and maybe not to the average fan, but certainly to us. We would go from show to show, and we'd have to be reminded of what city we happened to be in at that given moment. So New York hasn't really felt the effect of this yet. C2E2 and Emerald City are starting to feel the effect of it. Like Mary Kate Goodwin, who runs Emerald City on a day-to-day basis, she's been working on Emerald City since Emerald City ended. And if we were in the old structure, she wouldn't be thinking about Emerald City until New York Comic Con ended. So they've been doing a lot of really cool things in the community. They've been focused on their brand. They've been redesigning their website. Just cool stuff like that we never seemed to have the time for before. So I love it, and I'm so excited.
You get a sense of ownership as well, I suspect.
Yeah,
a sense of ownership for the event.
This is my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll go back to James and Katie, who run content on New York Comic Con. Like, they run content on New York Comic Con. It's a lot of their ideas that germinate into panels, and they deal with the studios and they deal with the comic publishers. And it used to be transactional. We'd go to the publishers and say, "What do you got? We'll put these in the schedule." Now we're working with publishers and we're working with studios to create things that we probably wouldn't have been able to do before. So I love it.
That's one thing I wanted to comment on, is that you're looking through the depth of panels that you've got this year. It seems like there's a lot more interesting, smaller panels.
Yeah.
And maybe it's so subjective and it's hard to really quantify, but it's something that I noticed, and good job.
Look, we're aggregators. Like, we essentially collect a bunch of things, exhibitors, content, guests, and we put them together and we put on a show. I don't necessarily love that. Like, I want to help in the creation of things, because there's panels at New York Comic Con that are happening this weekend at Baltimore, that are happening at Thought Bubble, that happened at San Diego, that happened at WonderCon. Like, so many people will just rinse and repeat and move things over. We want to be a part of something that's a little bit more creative than that.
Fair enough. Sarita P is jumping in with a question. Actually, I quite like this one. Do we have any ideas on how the fans can help New York City move more into... Sort of as email bombarding them.
Yeah, I don't think there is, and this is going to sound crass and capitalistic, but buy a hotel room from our block. I don't know, the cities measure the success of events based on the number of hotels that sell. That's the point of convention centers, is to fill hotel nights. And New York Comic-Con doesn't fill as many hotel nights as the pharmaceutical manufacturing show that happens, in March.
Wow. Okay.
It was the same with San Diego. With the convention center guy from San Diego said exactly the same thing, that San Diego Comic-Con isn't the one that brings in the most people. It brings in a lot of trade, but it's not the biggest one.
New York Comic-Con brings in the most fans to any event in New York.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about. But
that's because we don't mind skipping on each other's couches and that.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the point. Like, so many people live in the tri-state area, so they're just taking the train in, or they're sleeping on a friend's couch, or they're doing an Airbnb. Like, whatever, it's fine. I don't, the hotels are expensive, so do what you got to do. But like, that's what cities care about, and until they're going to get that out of us, then I don't really think they care. So,
would there be any? Because, and I hate to make the comparison, because as we all know, there is no comparison between the two. They're two completely different beasts. But San Diego Comic-Con have the agreement with the hotels to have block bookings, and then they drop the price for the hotel sales. Do you have something that could be arranged with that?
We have the same thing. The issue is just New York, and New York, especially New York on Columbus Day weekend, which is like, it's beautiful in the city on Columbus Day weekend, and it's a long weekend, so those hotels are going to be filled with or without us. So U2 song, but it's just it's just our circumstances. We'll continue to grow into the city, and we'll continue to do it on our own. We've done it this long.
Just slowly take over.
Right.
I think it's got to be said that New York Comic-Con really has done it on a very organic manner. I think it really has felt that the show has grown. You haven't felt like you've imposed yourself on New York. You've really grown organically, and I think the fans have noticed that. And
I hope so. I mean, to a lot of people, New York Comic-Con is still their local show. It's the show they've been going to forever, and they care about the celebrity guest list, and they lament that it's gotten so big that they can't see everything that they used to be able to see every time. So it's a national show for some, but it's a local show for a lot of people too, and we're always really thoughtful of that when doing stuff.
Do you see yourself continuing the relationship with local comic book shops? I mean, obviously you had the relationship of selling tickets via bookshops, but obviously that's all moved online. Do you see yourself returning to that kind of relationship to local industries?
That's a really good question. The relationship with comic shops pretty much ended when the ticket selling ended. We still are very close with Midtown, but we're starting to develop new partnerships. Brooklyn Brewery, we're doing our event, or we've done our event there every year for the past 5 or 6 years. We have a relationship with the Strand bookstore now. So, I think we'll start to see more things that aren't, the local comic retailer. They're still important to the show, and the way that they cultivate fans is important for the success of comic book conventions in general. But I wouldn't say we have a formal relationship with a lot of them anymore.
Fair enough.
I heard Brooklyn Brewery, and that's what put my interest.
Caroline heard the words Brooklyn Brewery, and that was
lost. Absolutely. So you said earlier, just to kind of get back to what I was talking about, you said earlier that you're also doing event manager for C2E2 and ECC, also those two shows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm the event director on both of those, and we've got Mary Kate, who runs Emerald City on a day-to-day basis, and Mike Negan, who used to run Artist Alleys for us, who now runs C2E2 on a day-to-day basis.
Sounds good. I like the difference in moving everything about, and would heartily second what you're doing. I think it really enables that hometown feeling in the conventions that some of the larger conglomerate convention folks that aren't able to do. And I'm really glad that you guys are doing that. I know that you kind of teased something out. Well, this is honestly on my list here of questions. The last question to ask you was, does ReedPOP have any special shows planned? Because there isn't a Star Wars celebration planned for 18, I think, right? There isn't a Star Trek show planned, and I was kind of wondering if, and I'm not seeing any of the smaller cons planned either. So I'm wondering where you guys
V the series
next.
V the series comic convention. V the series convention.
Sure.
I always see at least 2 people dressed as characters from V.
Okay. We've got something up our sleeve. So there will be something new coming soon. The licensed stuff, the Star Wars event, to my knowledge, is also not happening in 18. But we're always working on things with new partners. That Star Trek show last year came together relatively quickly. So just because we don't have anything in the pipeline now for 18 doesn't mean that something won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you have any sort of a time frame of when you're thinking about next summer or possibly next fall, or is it? I know that's it's hard to say, and I'm not. I'm more of this is from more of a personal standpoint because I'm trying to figure out how to plan because July is busy, October is busy.
Yep.
And then we got C2E2, ECC, and all of the conventions.
They're all every month is busy. There's never a good time for another show. So, when we launched Star Trek last year, it was Labor Day weekend, which means it's the same weekend as Fan Expo, which means it's the same weekend as that year Salt Lake. I think Dragon Con, and there was one or two others.
It's the modern convention calendar, isn't it? So there's always something happening.
Yeah, I think that when we launch something, we've built up a decent amount of trust and goodwill from people that they're going to get a show that isn't like some of the stuff that is out there now. We're very focused on delivering a very well-rounded experience. We're not all in on entertainment guests. We're not all in on comic guests. We're not all in on anime. We're very balanced, and we do that for a reason. Like, if you look at our, I think some people might look at our entertainment guest list and be like, "Oh man, that's no good." But like, if we were throwing a ton of money at entertainment guests, then that just means there's less money for us to do other cool stuff, and that means that fans' money is going to be sucked up by something that would not benefit the rest of the show. So we're very thoughtful about how we strike the balance between all of the different segments that are important to people.
I had an opportunity to go to a Fan Expo event, and I was very pleasantly surprised by them. They seem to be one of the other organizations out there that's doing a decent job. Just putting that out there. So I'm guessing I kind of got no response in terms of a time or an idea or what he's doing. You notice that too, Leonard?
I know exactly when it's going to be and exactly where it's going to be. I just can't say anything yet.
Okay, I gotta step in here, Mike, because the last time you came on the show, we asked you specifically when the pre-sale for tickets was going to be, and it was like 3 days later.
I know. I can't tell you everything. I got to throw the dogs off the scent from time to time.
Oh, we're dogs? Really?
Connection issues.
Okay, Leonard, take it away.
No, I think that's a perfect place to wrap things up. We do have one last question, and we will say
funny enough about
it's about pre-sale. Do you consider pre-sale a success, and if so, will you do it next year?
Yes. Yep. Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes.
Yes, and yes. And there we go. I think we've taken an hour out of your Sunday, and I know the baby monster is resting close by, and that's going to be keeping an eye on.
She's still sleeping.
Yeah.
Oh
Nice.
no! Right as you said that, now she's looking up. Oh no!
If you're using that as an excuse to duck out, anyway.
That is an excuse.
It's a recording. It's a recording. I hit the button and she moved.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get the dad bod and just go for dad duty, that's good.
Dude, I've had dad bod. I've had dad bod since I was 18.
I know that feeling. Jesus.
There's
anyway,
nothing wrong with the dad bod, thank you.
Listen, Mike, thank you very much indeed for your time. We really appreciate you coming. What we will do over the next couple of weeks, or certainly the next 7 days, certainly leading up to next week's show, if there's any questions that we get, if we can send them to you, we can relay them to our viewers.
Yeah, of course.
We'll email them off. If there's any questions, do send them in to us, and we'll get those to Mike, and we'll try and do a kind of recap of next week on next week's show. But Mike, we really do appreciate not only but also just all of the effort that you put into New York Comic-Con, because it really does show in the end result. We really
it's just a shame we can't actually go.
Oh, bummer.
We're trying.
It's a labor of love. We've got an amazing team, and I can't give them enough credit because they're the ones who do all the dirty work. I just get to come on Google Hangouts and talk about all the great stuff that they've done. So they're,
one day I'm gonna have to get a list of names off you. We'll just to create a specific post on my website just to say, right, these are the people we need to say thanks to. So,
the honoured heroes.
The honoured heroes.
Absolutely. I still want that being able to take the thoughts out of your mind for the night and put them in a bottle, like they in Harry Potter. So you.
We were just you went upstairs to get the other pints. We were discussing Harry Potter taking the minds out.
Okay.
It's been 8 years, and if I haven't figured out how to do that now, I don't know when it's going to happen. But
you drink more.
I gave up drinking. I haven't had a drink in like a year and a half. Oh wait, I had a con drink. I had a drink with you, Leonard, at San Diego.
Bravo.
All right, folks.
Beside the side of the bed.
Great talking to you. I'll see some of you in New York.
Thank you, Mike.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Brilliant stuff.
Bye.
Oh, fantastic. So there you go. Mike Armstrong. That was so cool. And as you may or may not have noticed, we have ourselves the other half, Caroline, joining us. Hello. A Welshwoman in San Diego who's joining us. And this is where we're going to kind of segue into what we've been up to this weekend. Unless there's been anything that's come in on Q&A, Alyssa, or anything that you want to kind of cover? Nope. Okay. We were going to hopefully be joined by Rich Johnson.
I think he got put off with the swing dancers.
Yes, we were inside, as you may have noticed, but we've been kind of booted out because
we had to relocate.
Yes, we were told we were going to have a nice quiet room to work in and do the hangout, at which point the quiet room got turned into a swing bar. So they're giving it the full jive at the moment. So they're having a lot of fun inside.
Funny enough, most of the couples are men. Just
putting it out
men
there.
dancing with men, swing dancing.
It's all about diversity. It's all about diversity in 2017.
It was apparently the manager that told us, hey, you can use downstairs. Nothing's going on down there. Because normally this all happens upstairs. Okay. But because of Thought Bubble, it's too busy.
Yes, I kind of appreciate that. Thought Bubble 2017. Okay, let's do our review of that. This has been a new year for Thought Bubble in that it's returned to the city centre. When Thought Bubble started, it was in the crypt of the town hall here in the city centre, and it was a small, tiny little independent con. At which point it then grew, developed, and moved to the Royal Armouries, which is a museum convention space just on the outskirts of Leeds. This year, it's moved back into the town centre, and it's done so with a bit of a bang. It's taken over a number of the open spaces here in the town centre.
A number of the city landmarks, actually.
Indeed, including the town hall, the Millennium Square, and the Cookery Street, which is just between the museums and a couple of the local hotels. It's taken over a lot of pretty much every spare space it can find. It's taken over. It's been an impressive event in terms of the talent that's been attracted. Certainly, it's gotten some incredible names as usual. But this is kind of down to Lisa Wood, who's also known as the artist Tula Lote, who's developed a great relationship with all of the talent that's brought. And also everyone just kind of like spreads the word and says, this is a great show to go to. and that kind of like really brings well, there you go. It's Andrew Dickinson, 429 tables. It is an amazing event and quite massive. However, there have been one or two issues, and this is where Thought Bubble needs to kind of learn from its new venues. But let's look at the positives first, please. Please.
Okay.
Because Caroline has only been here for the Sunday, so she's...
I've literally turned up today because I was working this weekend.
Yesterday I came first thing, and it really was rammed literally from the second that the doors were ready to open. The promise of Leeds City Centre attracting footfall from passing trade, it did that, and you had plenty of people kind of joining the throng of comic fans that did show up. It's all about comics at Thought. Art as well, yeah. The artists more than anything.
Just more.
It's when I was actually walking around one of the tents and found someone selling Funkos. Admittedly, it was like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh yeah, there wasn't many.
But my God, it felt so weird to have a Funko there, which was weird. It's all about prints and art prints and
original artwork
and comics and trades and little bits and pieces that people were selling just to keep the interest in their own titles going. And
trying to introduce their own work as well, their own books.
Absolutely.
There was the gentleman that we spoke to in here from Greece, flew over just for this from Greece.
I will say that as well.
To try and push his own book.
Yeah. As I walked around, there was American accents, there was French accents, there was Belgian. Lots of Russian. Lots of Russian accents. Yeah, there was plenty of foreign talent. This is very much an international con, and it is absolutely the biggest comics-led event that takes place here in the UK.
And yes, Andrew, lots of money being spent.
Yes.
plenty money.
I spent far too much money. I actually didn't bring my credit card, and I only drew out a certain amount of money from the bank, and I ended up having to go back and get some more money.
I was going to say what Andrew English had said, that there was 429 tables, and that he spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of Russians there too, he said.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that that we will say when it comes to Thought Bubble, because it is a new layout for the event here in the city. At the end of the day, the event is growing and learning.
So this is where we can come in with the cons.
Yeah, well, okay. Caroline,
you're literally just you're segueing into the cons.
Okay, Caroline wants to crash heavily into the slagging off.
One thing. No, I do not have bad words to say about Thought Bubble in any way. Thought Bubble is an amazing event, and I fell in love with it last year because it was the first time I ever came. You always find that one artist you've never heard of, you've never seen their work, but there it is laying out in front of you, and you fall in love instantly with it, which I love that, to put an artist in front and to let people discover these artists that they wouldn't normally even come across is brilliant, and I love that. But you're in Leeds City Centre, your main target audience has come in from all over the globe, and you create a map that doesn't describe where anything is. Tell you that something is these tables are in the City Hall marquee. These tables are in the Comicology marquee. These ones are in the other marquee. It doesn't tell you where those marquees are. That is not helpful in any way to anybody that is not from Leeds. I actually stopped because you find the red shirts. You know how you've always got the volunteers in their different coloured t-shirts. They're red here. And you look for the red shirts, and I turned around as I was trying to find the City Hall one. I turned around, I stopped somebody. Now, I don't have a Yorkshire accent. I know that myself. And I turned around and said to this guy, sorry, I'm looking for the town hall marquee. And he went, well, that building by there is the town hall, so it'd be in front of that. And I was just like, you arrogant git.
She's toning down the language.
Oh, very much so. I'm trying to tone it down. You've literally got an audience here of a good few thousand internationals, and instead of actually pointing people in the right direction, you're being sarcastic to them.
Yeah, but
really?
that could be a Yorkshire thing.
No, he wasn't even. I don't even think he was from Yorkshire, to be honest with you.
I mean, Andrew Dickinson.
Person. You know, that's just one person. You know,
sure. It's one volunteer though. This is a guy that literally was standing on a street by himself.
Right.
There's no other volunteers around him.
Right. And the fact that their map was not very.
Their
map was not legible.
Right. I even get frustrated.
I think it was more a case of. Sorry, go on. I think it was more a case of while the location and the event has evolved, it just needs to evolve in terms of the way it spreads information, in terms of kind of allowing those people who haven't been to the event before, because at the end of the day, it has outgrown the Royal Armouries, and it is now growing into the city, which means you're getting more people through the door. And if you're getting more people through the door, you can't treat them as though they have been here for the last couple of years. They have to be re-educated, and it has to be treated like pretty much a new event. So, there's that. I mean, we've got Andrew Dickinson on, who's jumped in on the Q&A. I got lost, and I've lived here 50 years.
Yeah.
So there we go. Karen Session, do they have a talkback? They have no panels like that.
So they have no panels, but we know, well, I got chatting to one of the volunteers last year, and made friends with her quite well. And I bumped into her again this year, and we told her about them.
It's getting very dark. I do apologize.
It is, yeah. We talked to her about it, and she was there going, well, I can actually give the feedback to them. And she went, and that is one thing that I will be bringing up, because, it is an issue. That it's taken over. There's 3 different marquees. Then there was
the town hall.
The town hall itself. And then there was a little thing in the museum. So that's 5 different locations. Yes, they're all within like a 2-block radius, but it's still, if you don't know those 2 blocks, you're screwed.
Yes. I mean, have you got any questions in terms of what any interest?
No, I thank you so much for visiting the Mondo booth and giving feedback on the Mondo booth. It's interesting to me that they put a lot of effort into making exclusives, and they make a real presence there. Because they don't even come to New York Comic-Con, so
Mondo and the UK and Thought Bubble is the strangest thing. Purely because, I mean, we've got people here that will camp out overnight. Admittedly, we're not talking San Diego numbers. We're talking maybe 10 or 15 that will camp out on an evening to get into the Mondo booth first. But at the end of the day, this is a hardcore fandom for Mondo that even they don't have in the US, which is very, very strange.
Oh no,
they do well. Yeah, I know.
Yes,
there's Mondo-Con as well. Did Caroline and Leonard see Poster Posse? Poster Posse was set directly opposite Mondo, and Caroline fell in love.
I fell in love with their work. I got chatting to the guys. I bought one of their pieces, and I actually won a prize from them as well, which I'm likely to give to Leonard as a Christmas present, to be perfectly honest. Oh yeah, it's in a sealed box, so you can't see it. It's fine.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about the tents at Thought Bubble is that the headliners, they spread out amongst all of the tents, and they did really use the tents very well in terms of having kind of side doors, which they then opened up and used as kind of like feed cues for each of the individual
They did that really
headliners,
well.
and the line management here has been exceptional. Admittedly, it has also been rather handy that the convention has been moved from November to September, which means it's not absolutely siling it down. We're not getting soaked outside of the tents.
The only problem is that it's boiling hot
it's
in
now-
the tent
now
because
boiling
it's
hot in the
basically a
tent.
greenhouse with a bunch of sweaty nerds.
Yes, people are they have shown up with an extra layer, which they've kind of expected from Thought Bubble, which wasn't required. So everyone has been slightly hot and sweaty.
This
So
is
there we go.
So
precisely
this is my poster posse print.
It's a bit dark.
I don't know whether
Yeah,
you can actually see it properly.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is difficult to see.
Yeah,
But
I'll
the
say we'll
thing
take a
about
we'll
that
take a
is-
picture and we'll post it on the Twitter.
It's number 1 of 10.
Oh, she's just showing off now. It's just showing off. Okay, let's actually talk about the convention rather than just showing off your swag. That's terrible.
This is the kind of stuff that you can get.
That was why I was asking, the temperature in the tents was exactly why I was asking Mike Armstrong about what the AC, what they were planning on doing with the Artist Alley room, because sometimes the comic book types can be a little, and that's a small, dark room.
It is. It is.
Just
But
kind
no,
of,
it was particularly
sweaty.
warm, but I think that was just more kind of a reaction to the previous couple of years in the tents where everyone's just gone, oh, it's just way too cold. It's 2 months earlier, and therefore it's not necessarily needing it. But still, a couple of people have been saying that perhaps it is a bit of an issue, that it is buried deep in the convention season. November, it was on its own. It kind of had its own niche. This year, it's a little bit buried in the calendar. And obviously, you're on the tail end of a lot of big events. But to be fair, the Saturday was rammed. The footfall's been amazing. And I think it has been a success. It just needs to learn to grow. I mean, it's getting incredibly dark here, so we may have to start wrapping
Bear with me a
things.
second.
We're going to have to start wrapping
I have
things
an
up
idea.
here. Oh, okay.
Let there be light.
oh,
Kind of freaky, but
lighty.
light.
We're now getting into Halloween mode.
Yeah. It just means we can't answer any questions on here because my phone's
Yeah.
now switched over.
Leanne D says that she's booked a flight from Thought Bubble to MondoCon right away. Andy Dickinson, mine was the Bayeux Tapestry, but with the Monty Python Holy Grail.
Yeah, I love that. I
Beautiful.
love that. I was
Beautiful.
torn. I was going to get, if I had any more money left at the end of the day, I was going to go back and get that and the Deadpool inspired, well, the Rocky inspired Deadpool poster, which was amazing.
A lot of the
all.
international talent, including Poster Posse, they weren't too sure how they were going to be received. At the end of the day, they're an unknown quantity, and they have to kind of come in fresh and sell their wares. But
Did they?
I think
they sold out of a couple of things. I know that they sold out of the Breakfast Club posters, which were really interesting.
But that's
because they were literally just the feet of each student underneath the table. It was really cool.
Well, I'm asking because that gives an indication of whether or not they'll be back next year. If they got
I think that's more down to the relationship that they have as their artists with people. I mean, obviously you've had Jock, who's done some stuff for Poster Posse. You've had Matt Ferguson do some stuff for them as well. So the
Star Wars one I got, they only had, when I left at 3:00, there was only 4 of them left. So I think they sold out of them ones.
Yeah. Good.
So it's definitely a case of, I mean, that's the reason why Thought Bubble has developed and grown. It's all down to the relationships that the artists, I mean, one of the first artists that they got through the door was, the creatives was Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, at which point they then turn around to their friends and say, we would like you to come to Leeds. Then they spread the word, and the next thing you know, you've got creatives across the comic spectrum just going, this is a place you need to go. And it has, to that extent, made Thought Bubble the size that it is.
Aaron Navis is actually I'm probably mispronounced his last name. Aaron is actually suggesting that we get the owner of Poster Posse on Don.
That would be cool.
That would.
Yeah, that's something for you to keep track of and work on, Leonard. Please.
Well, the great thing about this year and this particular con, I have no idea what it is about Leeds, but usually when you have a convention here in the UK, or I can imagine in most conventions, people kind of pack up their tables, get on the motorway, let's just get home. They're stopping around tonight. It looks like Leeds.
A lot of people seem to be sticking around.
It's going to be a party town in Leeds tonight for comic fans. So, yeah, I don't know what it is about. They'll just head back tomorrow. So, who knows? I think being in the centre of town, centre of the country as well, it makes it a little bit easier for people to get to on a national basis. So, yeah.
You need to hunt him down tonight and set up
okay. Okay. Well, it's not. I don't think he'll be leaving town tonight. So, no, okay, leave it with us.
Anything else from the convention?
From Thought Bubble. I think we pretty much said what we need to say, but I will say that it's continuing to grow. This was the first year in its layout. I personally had no problem with the layout. The one thing that I've been describing it as, this has been the most San Diego Comic-Con feeling event that I've seen here in the UK, because it has taken over the town.
Nice.
I mean, we were speaking to a couple of the red shirts.
You say taken over the town. It's taken over this section of the town.
Center. Okay, the city centre. It says a lot that I've been talking to a number of the volunteers in the red shirts, and I've been saying that you really should have had Fitbits on just to see the kind of the amount of mileage they've been putting in. Because you end up putting a bit of. You have to be wearing some proper shoes for this one, which is
comfortable trainers.
Comfortable trainers. It's now, and it's taking over a lot of space. They have a lot to learn, but they've got 12 months to do it.
Yeah, not much to learn though. They've only got a couple of things. There was only a couple of things that needed tweaking, and businesses around the area. Most of them seemed to have caught on.
Capitalized, yeah.
Caught on that this is going to be a busy weekend, just in time to get all the stock in. However, I went to a bakery around the corner just to get a sandwich or something, and they literally had, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, they had 9 items left. That was it. They had 9 left, and as soon as those 9 sold, they had to close, and this was at 2:00 in the afternoon.
In the plus column, it's
unheard of in city centre.
In the difference between this and the Royal Armouries, it's rather handy to have some cash points around.
Yeah.
Instead of the 1, which ran out at 12:30 last year.
Yeah.
But there we go. So, yeah, it benefits from the move. They just need to kind of fine tune 1 or 2 bits and pieces. Certainly in terms of a couple of the panel rooms, a couple of the sound issues. It's little niggles that can be solved.
Did you do a panel, and did you post your panel recently? If I recall correctly?
I attended a panel. This is at Thought Bubble. I attended a panel. I attended a couple. I attended Brian K. Vaughan, who was awesome. Brian K. Vaughan is such a darling, and I love him to death. He's brilliant. So there was that. There was the Black Crown Publishing panel, which says a lot about the imprint itself. I think people are now sick and tired of seeing the panels. They just need to see the books now. The books come out in 2 weeks' time. We've had 8 months of teasing. Let's actually see the books now. So there was that. I went to see a Creating Worlds panel today, but that was being held in the town hall. Problematic when it came to the actual audio. So that's but it was still a fun panel, and it was good. The panels were being held in 2 locations around the actual festival, and they were good spaces for it to happen. So nice.
Just
nice
the one
close.
had the audio difficulties because it was in it was pointed the wrong direction in a theatre.
Yes, it was actually on. The idea was that the actual ground floor of the theatre itself was being all the tables and stuff, and then you had the panels that were being held on the stage facing the back.
Stage.
Facing the yeah, it got a bit awkward.
So instead of speaking out to the room, they were speaking back at themselves.
Yeah.
So they couldn't really be heard.
Yeah.
It's stuff they learn.
Oh, very much so, pointed in the completely wrong direction.
It's stuff you learn.
But it's
Well,
things that you learn by doing, kind of.
Well, that and it's live.
Somebody probably could have pointed them out.
Go on, Alison.
It's live TV. You know, it's a live production, so you have to incorporate and move and work things through on the fly. And sometimes people aren't as capable of doing that. I've got Leanne D has an announcement to make. She on the chat. She says that she's won Thor Ragnarok premiere tickets in Hollywood on October 10th. So she gets to see it a full month before everybody else does.
Nice.
Sarita says, congratulations. Andrew Dickinson's wondering, says, wonder if they take over the arena next year.
I don't see that. I think that's very similar to.
I wouldn't want them to do that.
Case of like San Diego taking over Petco. I don't think they can afford it.
No, I don't. I mean, most conventions over here take place in like Motorpoint arenas and things like that, and they all just seem exactly the same. The thing with Thought Bubble is it's completely different.
It does feel like a unique event.
Yeah, and if they moved it to the arena, then it just turned into the same old, and I really hope they don't do that.
Fair enough.
Well, they could coordinate it off, drape it off. But we do have a big week in television to tackle.
I was just about to say, I think we've talked enough.
It all comes in, doesn't it?
We've talked enough. So and it's getting very dark, and there's a bar open. So to tell you what, let's crack into our final stretch then. Yeah, week in TV. Very, very quickly, just to check, you've got Star Trek Discovery tonight in the US, yes?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. And
we've got it on Netflix tomorrow. We're looking forward to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That is the big thing. And we get, apparently it's being broadcast over air, you know, on the CBS air channels, cool. Not on CBS All Access. And I did see somebody report, it was Bleeding Cool or Nerdist or some media, geek media was reporting that reports are good.
The reviews have been stellar so far. Although I think it was Nerdist who turned around and said surprisingly good. Why surprisingly good? I don't quite get that.
Because the last one that they did was Enterprise and everybody knocked it.
Right.
All right, we'll move on. Yeah, okay.
Plus, CBS has had a problem with their media, with their promotion, and they've kept a clamp on everything. And that traditionally means that things are not good when you do that. However, it seems like they're bucking the trend, and they are good. Speaking of good Star Trek shows, the Orville the last Orville was really kind of fun and is getting a lot of people. They've said they really liked that show. So that's just.
We only watched one episode.
I find it so weird. We've got effectively 2 Star Trek series starting in like weeks of each other.
I love it. There's room for Star Wars and Star Trek, and I'm going to go see the new Star Wars, first night too, just along with everybody else. So. Oh, let's
cool.
see.
What else have we got coming up?
Yeah, Leanne says, it's on CBS. Dan Barry says CBS posted the opening credits of the Star Trek Discovery online. Link is on the.
Oh, nice.
I've been told the opening theme is gorgeous, so I'll have to check that out.
Yes, looking forward to this evening. We also did a write up for it. Doctor Who was able to speak with some people. So there's also a write-up on our blog, on my blog too. Monday we get a double dose of Sheldon Cooper with the Big Bang Theory. returns, and we get to see whether or not she accepts the proposal or whatever. And then young Sheldon. So that's, you know.
Is that out tomorrow? Right, okay.
On Monday, yep. At least
Fair
here
enough.
in the States it is. Tuesday night, we've got This Is Us. We've got Law and Order and Lethal Weapon, which I enjoy as a light show. Wednesday,
I'm curious to see how the numbers for This Is Us is going to go off the back of its Emmy win, or Emmy wins, as it were. Yeah, so I can imagine that show's going to really step up a notch in terms of its audience off the back of that.
Yeah, when it starts to get really, I don't know. I watched it, and it was kind of good at the beginning, but then it kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I'm weird with television. Kevin really likes it, and it you know, and it did get an Emmy win, so you know, it's not a bad show, but it's heartstrings kind of tug at.
It's a tough emotional roller coaster. Yeah.
Yes, it's
so not my cup.
Not your cup of tea at all.
Yeah, see, I'm with you, Carolyn. Totally. You know, I'd much rather.
Grey's Anatomy is enough, and that is basically my own self-harming kind of issue right there. I watch it because I know I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
We'll actually do that with.
On Wednesday night, we get to a couple of shows, which I really like. Speaking of not heartstring types, The Blacklist and Designated Survivor come back. So I'm looking forward to those. The Keith President Kirkman and Keith Sutherland. Then we've also got Empire and the Star, which is returning movie music shows. Thursday we've got Grey's Anatomy, The Good Place, Chicago Fire, and How to Get Away with Murder. So yeah, that's
it's a lot of returns and a lot of these shows.
Yeah, we're wrapping up Teen Wolf, and also saying goodbye to People of Earth, which has been outstanding. And I'm so surprised that one didn't get any Emmy nods. Fear the Walking Dead is
it's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's too light-hearted in 2017 to get nominated for anything.
Well, Atlanta did.
Everything's got to be.
Oh, you cynical thing.
Everything's got to be earnest to be nominated now. It's where we are.
Well, I suppose. I mean, I am really enjoying the Vietnam War on PBS, and it's. I've
been hearing good things.
Sorry, that sentence right there, just before you said PBS. I don't think anybody has ever said that.
Nobody's
Perhaps. I know. I meant that as the 10 episodes documentary that's going on. It's very well done, and certainly presents it from a number of points of view, and it brings what is currently happening between us and Korea into a whole new light. So it certainly throws a light on that.
Well, Ken Burns has always had that skill, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Me, Myself, and I is also premiering this week, which is a sitcom that stars what does it star? What's the name of that guy? Laura Quat.
I don't even know what name she's attempting to go for there.
Bobby in a comedy about the defining moments of one man's life over 3 distinct periods. The 65-year-old is played by somebody who you would know, and I just am drawing a complete blank at this moment. Yeah.
Okay. I think the show has gone on long enough now. We're definitely kind of flagging at this point. Let's wrap things up. So cool. I mean, is there anything else that's?
Nope.
No. Okay.
We'll see.
That's cool. Yeah. Right. So let's wrap things up. First and foremost, thank you very much indeed to Mike Leventhal for not showing up. Thank you very much indeed to Rich Johnson for not showing up. Thank you very much indeed to Mike Armstrong for showing up.
For actually showing up.
Yeah.
Mike Leventhal did show up. Okay. He did show up, and I was having problems getting him on. And
fair enough.
She cut him off on purpose.
No, I did not. It was not on purpose, but I was having a problem running the camera, remembering what I was supposed to be asking, and getting Mike on. Because you're usually doing this stuff. So where can people find you? Now
listen. The good news is I will do my best to make the same kind of issues next week. So there we go. And first things first. Where can people find you, Alyssa?
People can find me on the Twitter of @Friends of CCI, and they can find me on my website, friendsofcc.com, both the blog and the forum.
Brilliant stuff. For myself, you can find me at Englishman SDCC on all the social medias and find an idea of what we get up to on the website and EnglishmanInSanDiego.com. And of course, you can follow and support what we do here on the podcast on the website as well at patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. Just a quick update on what's happening next week. I am going to be in Chichester, which is on the south coast next Saturday. Going to be taking part in Meanwhile Comic-Con, which is the first year of a new convention. I've been asked to go down to be the panel host. I'm going to be there from 11 o'clock in the morning through till 5:30 at night, and basically hosting some great panels, including a 2000 AD panel, a panel with Alison Sampson, a manga panel. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a long day. I'm going to try my best to live stream. Well, and I'll be giving you a full review of the show on next week's episode.
Meanwhile, that Saturday, I'll be getting drunk down in Cardiff.
There you go. You're going to be getting drunk. So there you go. While I'm away. Fantastic.
I'm going to just mention, it was John Larroquette for that show. I'm back on.
Fair enough.
There's also a couple of new shows called The Brave and A Good Doctor, and I think SEAL Team is also happening this week. So take a look at the.
That's been driving you crazy, hasn't it, Alyssa? That was driving you nuts.
An itch in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. So read the post, set up the DVRs, because it's a killer week for TV. And if you haven't cleared it off, I feel pity. If you haven't cleared your DVRs off, I feel pity for you. We'll see you next week.
Good point. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's been a long show, but we've had a lot to talk about this week. If you are heading to New York Comic-Con in 2 weeks' time, don't forget, we are going to do a kind of recap next week. Any questions you have, send them to tips@anenglishmaninsandiego.com, or you can send them to Alyssa or mine Twitter, and we'll make sure we get those to Mike, and we'll cover those on next week's show. We're now going to head to the bar. Alyssa's going to head to whatever she does on a Sunday, probably just to relax and enjoy herself.
Football.
Enjoy the rest. Well, there you go. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. From us to you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.